Okay, this lecture is called The Soy Papers, Big Secret. And so the big secret about soy is there are so many people promoting soy, and some of them really do, I think, mean well. They're just too lazy to read the papers. But the big secret is that there's so many negative studies about problems with soy. By the way, I think if you want to see good discussions on soy, this Dr. Anthony J. He's a PhD biochemist specializing in lipids. His YouTube channel is Dr. Anthony J. He's got lots of videos about soy and other estrogenic chemicals. He's really good. His book, Estrogen Generation, is the best book ever written. Here it is, Estrogen Generation by Anthony J. And he'll go through tons more papers on soy and other things than I'm going through here. But what I'll go through here will be enough to let you get a real sense of the background information papers on soy. Okay, first of all, paper associated with a goiter. So that suggests it can be associated with abnormal thyroid function, which is a real concern. Lots and lots of people got thyroid problems. Okay, next, it's association with abnormal puberty. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4 papers indicating problems with puberty. Okay, that's of real concern. And if it can cause problems with puberty, that suggests it's having an estrogenic effect. And if it can have an estrogenic effect in the puberty way, that would suggest it probably has estrogenic effects in other ways, potentially increasing risk of breast cancer. I know that soy does some things that are considered good, that it can, in some ways, although it has some positive estrogen effects and does activate the estrogen receptor alpha, it does also have some negative estrogenic effects. And then which one is going to predominate? A little hard to predict, though, but it's almost like a pharmaceutical with these very high levels of estrogenic chemicals. Okay, here's more papers, Associations of Soy with Breast Cancer. So here's one by Allred 2001, stimulating growth of estrogen-dependent tumors in this cell line, like in tumor culture cells, stimulating estrogen-dependent breast cancer cells grown in vivo. Another paper by Allred 2001. The Mueller paper showing that it significantly activates alpha receptors. Yes, it activates estrogen receptor beta, the estrogen beta for beautiful, alpha or ass. It does the bad one less than it does the good one, but these concentrations can be high and you worry that it's going to affect both. And there was even part of the paper where it suggested it had a very significant effect in figure 5. Okay, Zheng paper here, soy increases insulin-like growth factor, that increases risk of breast cancer. I'm just giving you all the papers so anybody can read this for themselves. This is not just like my opinion. I could care less about soy. You know, my background is I'm a former college wrestler. Okay, I want to be strong. I want to be fit. Okay, I think, you know, modern men are all kind of becoming, you know, feminized. They're exposed to tons of estrogen chemicals in their water, in their food, in their, you know, like personal care products, their deodorants, any cologne. Women too. It's in the shampoos. It's in the soaps. Well, actually, not all these estrogen necessary in those estrogenic chemicals and all those things, but not necessarily from soy. Soy is especially, you know, a food item. Okay, excuse me for getting distracted about estrogenic chemicals in other ways. All right, other papers on soy. Here it is: estrogenic effects, more estrogenic worrisome effects related to breast cancer. Other paper concerned about the issue. So there's a lot of papers showing concern about the estrogenic effects of soy and concern about what effect that might have on cancer. Association with soy and breast cancer continued. They couldn't even fit it all on the one page. Here's a Duffy paper saying that the in vivo animal data suggests phytoestrogen genistein may interfere with the inhibitive effects of tamoxifen on breast cancer cell growth. So maybe if somebody's on tamoxifen, that might be an issue. They should look into that. Conflicting data has been reported on phytoestrogens. So there's real concern about that. Prostate in men is a lot like the female breast, being estrogen and estrogenic sensitive. Dairy, soy, and risk of breast cancer, confounded milk. So yeah, when you stop drinking dairy, which is a major poison, and you often stop eating so much meat, and you often, it's part of the transition to go vegan is to now start having soy milk and eat plant foods. But a lot of the benefit, I think, is probably coming from the plant foods rather than the soy. The soy just lucked out to be associated with the plants. Here's another paper where the only people who benefited were the ones that had tumors that were negative for the estrogen receptor, suggesting that maybe the soy did have some beneficial effect, but that it might be counteracted when they've got estrogen receptors positive, which is the vast majority of breast cancers. Okay, soybean here potentially associated with male infertility. Nutritional modifications with soy. Soy shown to lower semen quality. Here's the other paper coming out of Harvard Mass General. Higher intake of soy foods and soy isoflavones associated with lower sperm concentration by 41 million sperm per milliliter fewer. That's 41 million, M as in million, sperm fewer per milliliter, okay? That does not sound encouraging. I want all my sperm. I don't want them wasted. Okay, let me see. Was I missing a paper here? Okay, now here we go. And then just last that, the soy being eaten by these Asian people back in the 50s when they grew a little bit in their garden and ate a tiny amount unprocessed or minimally processed. That's not the same as a person eating soy in America where it's probably GMO. Who knows the significance of that? It's probably sprayed with glyphosate. And then there's all these additives to glyphosate to make it more powerful. Plus, over time, the weeds are becoming more resistant to glyphosate. So they have to keep on spraying higher amounts, which increases the risk of higher amounts of it being in the food that contains a soy component. It tends to be processed quite often with hexane, which is neurotoxic. The Asians were eating a small amount of soy, and their health was probably coming from their rice and their vegetables and not from the soy. So anyways, those are the papers. If you want to look it up for yourself, there they are. If you want more, go look up Anthony J, and he'll give you a whole bunch more papers. He recommends don't eat anything with soy in it, not with anything with any soy at all in it. I could care less about soy. I just don't want anything to do with it because it's estrogenic, but I don't really care about it. But I noticed when I spoke about soy in the past, I get all these trolls come out of the woodwork to start saying, "Oh, how could you criticize soy?" I also was on in Facebook, and I said something about my concern about soy, and these people tried to kick me out of a Facebook nutrition group. They got all mad at me. It's weird, but people are really strongly emotional attached to soy. So it's like read the papers for yourself. Okay, it's not some big mystery here. So that's it.